Well, hello, my name is Peter Freissle. I am the CEO of Polydeck Screen Corporation, a company that makes equipment for the mining industry. Our company was founded in 1958 by my dad, and we started a plant here in North America in 1978, and then one down in Santiago, Chile, 20 years later. And so today we have a global company that's spread throughout North and South America, exporting to almost 26 countries. And I'm just very privileged and honored by Kingdom Capitalist to be here on this blog, to be able to share my story. And what I'm here to do today is just share a very simple story, a story I think key of transformation, of deep change, where God got a hold of my heart and changed who and what I was and what I believed. And it all started when I came here to the United States 25 years ago. Originally, I'm from South Africa. And I started here in Spartanburg, South Carolina. And my venture was to double the size of the company. That was the key objective for me. And so I worked day and night, really got stuck into the business and started to really grow the business. But as time would go, I just got more and more into the day-to-day business and kind of lost my spirituality. And in the pursuit of the American dream, I wanted to gain wealth and a house and a car and all the things that they tell you in business that you should strive for, and none of that was God-centric. And so as the years grew on, I became successful. The company didn't just double, it tripled, quadrupled, and kept growing in size. And as that all happened, I became more a person of the world than anything else. And I really started using people selfishly to gain my own desires and wishes and grow the company, and in many ways used them and didn't care for them at all. And it became a hollow existence. And yet, while I'd achieved the American dream, I achieved the wealth or beyond the wealth that I'd ever imagined, I had this gnawing feeling in my heart of emptiness. Yes, I've achieved what I set out to financially and business-wise, but I felt empty. And a guy came to me one day, actually one of our suppliers, and he'd just been on a retreat. And he said, "Peter, I just encourage you to go on this retreat." And so, I at that point didn't really understand what a retreat was all about, but knew that I needed some spiritual enrichment in my life. So I went on this silent retreat for 3 days. And during those 3 days, it was dramatic. The changes for me, God got a hold of my heart and helped me understand that He was the center of my life. And so the pastor actually asked us, could you take your life and put it in a pie chart? And what do you really honor, and what do you worship? And I thought, well, it's easy, I worship God. But in a sense, when you dig deeper, he said, I want you to be able to define what you worship by the amount of time and resources that you spend in different areas of your life. And as I took my pie chart and started splitting it up, I went into my business, my family, my social responsibility, and God. And as I looked at this thing, as you can see on the chart here, there is, God was a little slice, tiny portion of my life. And my family was a small slice. And really what it was about me, selfishly chasing my American dream. And during that process, God really helped me to understand that had to change. And He didn't want to just be a slice. He wanted to be the center and the core of my life, and that He should impact all the other areas of my life. And if you look at the other chart that is before you, you'll see that that radical change for me came about when God really put me in a place of vulnerability and one where I realized I needed him. And everything changed from there. Coming out of the retreat, God just put on my heart that he wasn't going to measure me one day by how much money I had, but rather what I did with that money and how I enriched people's lives and how I'd used it in a way that created eternal value. And that was a shocking wake-up story for me, and everything changed from that point onwards. And what I realized was that I'd been living the life of a submarine Christian. Now, what is that? It's kind of like on Sunday, you're up at the surface and you have the lid of your submarine open and you're doing your thing. And after Sunday service, you shut the hatch and you dive. And really, there is no evidence anywhere in your life on Monday through Saturday that you belong to God, that you live by his principles, that you follow the gospel. None of that was there. So really, I was a submarine Christian, and that was pretty sad. And so coming back, God just laid on my heart that there were several key principles that he wanted me to look at. And, the Bible's a thick book, and there's a lot of stuff going on in there. And when you're trying to find your path, I think God made it very simple. When Christ was on earth, he said, there's two things that summarize the entire Bible, and that is love God with all your heart, and two, love your neighbor. And if you boil it down to just that, that is what it's really all about. And that was the paradigm shift for me. And the other thing that really grabbed my heart was the parable of the Good Samaritan. And I was the antithesis of the Good Samaritan. I was like the Levite priest that just walked straight by the guy in the ditch. And the guy in the ditch is actually my employees, people I'd been stepping over literally to make money, to use them to make money. When I realized that that parable was speaking to me as a business owner, it changed everything. And so suddenly I was looking to how could I enrich the lives of my employees as opposed to use them. That's a huge paradigm shift. And in terms of paradigm shift, if you look at the FedEx logo, I've just pulled the FedEx logo up there. There's a small arrow between somewhere hidden in that FedEx logo. But if you've never seen it before, you can't see it. But once you see it between the E and the X, the two red letters there, it opens your eyes to a whole new way of seeing that logo. And that's really what God did to me. He changed my paradigm. The Holy Spirit entered me, and I don't say that I suddenly was smarter or anything, and it wasn't anything I deserved. God just put in my heart that simplicity of what he wanted me to do with my life and the resources. And just a couple of things that you can see on the slide that really he impressed on me. Number one is I didn't own it. Up until then, I thought I owned everything, and that, I have a share certificate that says I own the company. But you know what? That's not what it's about. God owns it. God owns everything. And if you really think about it, if you don't think he owns your company, well, think about your intellect and the gifts that he's given you. Without those, what use would you be at your company? The second thing is, with every gift, there is a responsibility. And what I realized for the first time was the company was a gift to me. I didn't own it, and I was a steward. And God would hold me accountable, just like the parable of the 10 talents. What did you do with the 10 talents I gave you? And what did you do not to make more talents, but what did you do to create eternal value with those talents? That was the big paradigm shift for me. The third thing was the concept of using the company as a platform for ministry. I'd never thought of it that way before, but God impressed on my heart that I have 300 to 400 employees around all the time. What am I doing to minister to their needs, to their spiritual development, to help them grow in all different aspects of their lives? And I really didn't think of that. So my circle of influence, what was that? And so I really realized that I had to work on that. And the fourth thing was the whole concept of purpose. And Mark Twain says it really well. There's two most important moments in your life. Number one, the moment you're born, And the second is the one you find out why you're born. And really, that was the key. So I had to start to develop a purpose, my own personal purpose statement, and then also the purpose statement of our company. And so I'll just share with you what we came up with. I sat down after that retreat with my executive team, and we worked on this simple statement for 3 days. What is our purpose? And what we came up with was to serve our customers and stakeholders with excellence as the first component. The second one is to achieve profitable growth. Now, most people can agree with those first two comments, but then the third one is really what differentiates us. This profit enables us to care for people in a way that honors God. And that was really the key to the whole paradigm shift for my executive team and for me. We had to have something, a new path to go down and to have mile markers and to use this vision purpose statement to help us down that road. The second thing we came up with was, well, how are we going to implement that thing? So we came up with a core value statement. And that core value statement goes like this. We're a company grounded in the Christian values of honesty, integrity, humility, trust, respect, kindness, accountability, and social responsibility. And the key really of the whole statement goes around this part. Our goal as a company is to create eternal value by striving to honor God in all that we do. This is reflected in how we conduct our business and how we care for our Polydeck family members, not employees anymore, but more like family, who are our greatest asset. And that really was the starting point for us. It was pretty scary. That may sound real simple, but it was scary. And what are the key things that scared me? Number one is, would I be sued if I made these bold statements? If I put that statement on our website, if I put it on the back of our business cards, if I started announcing that statement, what would happen? So I was afraid of being sued. Secondly, what would everyone think? What would my employees think? Here you've got Darth Vader on one hand. Suddenly he's turned into Mother Teresa. What's going on with him? And how would I handle that sudden change in the way I was thinking? The third thing was, would I lose my customers? We've got many international companies that we serve, mining companies, many of which are global and are in countries which, in some cases, in Indonesia, in Asia, they believe in Buddhism, they believe in Muslim. How would they take when they see this new principle of ours? How would they take it? And the fourth thing was, could I afford it? Because caring, in many ways, is expensive. You're going to have to give of your wealth to others. And that was a scary thing for me. But as we journeyed down that thing, I can tell you that each of those, I could spend hours sharing with you multiple stories in each of those areas of how God, if you truly trust Him, He takes care of all those issues. The most important one is the litigation in the United States. I want to just share with you, there are many, many resources that you can find out there that will help you to navigate through this in a way that is legal and is also supported by business and by our legal system. So one of the things I did was I challenged our team to take that logo, the logo, the mission statement, the purpose statement, and the core values, put them all together and make them public. And that was pretty scary. And I don't have time now to share all the stories, but I wrote a book on it called The Business Card Book, in which I share many, many stories on how God came to our support and helped us not only survive, but thrive. And thrive so many ways, both with our employees, with our vendors, with our customers. It was such a wonderful experience to journey down that. Now, once we put those fundamental things in place, we then had to figure out how were we going to create a place of caring? How was I going to be the Good Samaritan and do that? And so what we did was we formed a caring team. And that caring team in our company, we put funds at their disposal. They were democratically elected throughout the organization, put on a team, and we empowered that team to be able to take the resources of our company We started off very slowly, put small amounts, and you'll be surprised how that team actually uses those resources in a very, very responsible way. And because of that, we've increased it. And today we're running at 1.5% of our total revenue. We put in this caring fund, and these elected employees sit there and they decide how to use those funds in a way that creates eternal value and enriches lives. Now, one of the things we did in order to put some parameters around how they would spend that money, we created a simple matrix, which is in front of you. It's a 9-box matrix that basically goes employees, family, and community on the vertical axis. And the horizontal, we've got their physical, emotional, and spiritual needs. And what we did was we said to our team, come up with programs that fulfill each of those boxes. So 9 boxes. What programs can we put in there? And so, for example, some of the boxes that we started to fill were on the bottom left-hand corner, the employees physically. Because, I can't hear what you say until I know that you care. And yes, you can go on this rant and rave about being a Christian company and living these new values, but employees want to see it first. They want to feel that care deep inside. And so the best place to start is in the physical realm. And so what we did is we started programs helping our employees in a real practical physical way. We started developing funds that help them when they, for example, have house burns down, when they're having hardship in their family, when there's health issues in their family that they didn't anticipate, all the way to drug addiction. One of the really, before the transformation, we would basically fire people. But now we were taking them, if we see them not as employees, but souls, how would God want us to treat a soul as opposed to an employee? It's a radically different way of thinking about it. And so if that's a soul, we want to empower them. We want to help them on their path to recovery. So we developed for our employees this plan whereby we'd send them away to rehabilitation for a 12-week program. And during that time, we'd take care of their finances. We'd pay them full salary. We took care of their families back home because many of them didn't want to go because they said, well, what's going to happen to my family if I'm gone? So we had teams go to their house, cut the grass, help with food, with all sorts of issues, help mom back home. And all those things were developed. And then when the employee comes back from the rehabilitation, the job is kept open for them and they're allowed to go on with normal life. And so that's pretty much a huge paradigm shift for us. I don't have time to share with you all the different stories, but they're amazing stories of transformations, of people's lives that have been changed because of drug addiction, different types of addiction, alcohol, all kinds of things that people get stuck with and are literally lying in the ditch that we shouldn't walk over. We should see them, identify them, and help them. So other programs were, for example, helping with different types of single mom issues that they had. Broken cars. We have a sick car fund that we have. We have a benevolence fund. We have all kinds of different programs that we developed. One of the things we did after a while, we realized there was a need in our company for a spiritual place of refuge. So we built a chapel within our company, and I'll show you a picture later on. Well, we did that. We started a library for our employees. We started prayer groups. We started opening things in prayer. We started a program which we came up with, a chaplaincy program, which I'll share with you in a minute. All sorts of things. And as we started to develop those programs, we started to expand it. We went out to the employees, to their families, issues that were going on with their teenage kids, issues that were going on with marital issues. We had marital retreats for our employees. All sorts of things. As this balloon started to grow, we started to realize there's so many needs, so many employees who are broken and hurting, and we just stepped right over them. But now we had this program to do that. Then we also went from just the physical needs to the emotional needs. We got counselors to come in to help employees. We had some employees that in the past had committed a suicide. We had no way to deal with that. Now we've got a way to really help them with all sorts of programs to help them grow emotionally too. And the last factor was that of spirituality, not only for the employees, but for their families too. The chaplain is a key component of that, but also our caring team, our caring manager, our caring whole environment allows our employees to feel loved and grow spiritually. So, for example, all our meetings that we have as company, we start off with a simple prayer. It's a simple prayer, just inviting them to pray for the company, to pray for each of them, for their families, in a non-discriminatory way and in a non-confrontational way, because we have people of different faiths in our company. So that was kind of a key component. The chaplaincy program, what that really is all about is in any one of our companies in the United States, the average is 70% of our employees don't go to church. So if they don't go to church, how about we bring church to them? And there's a statistic that most people after the age of 20 who come to faith in Jesus do so in a moment of crisis. So what better place in a company? People's lives go through crises every day. And so what better place is there to provide spiritual support and mentoring when they're going through that crisis? So God provides us with those opportunities when people need Him. And then to put the chaplain and our caring manager plus the caring funds all together, that creates this environment where we can truly see deep change within employees' lives. In our company, for example, we have 350 employees here in the US. Of those, 88 now have a personal relationship with Christ as a result of this combo, if you like. We've got the human resource team, which we call the employee care department. We have the caring manager with his caring funds, and we also have the chaplain. And that triage that we have really gets down to the core of helping employees when they're in that ditch. One of the key things that I want to share with you is what I didn't really know how to deal with the people that were of different faiths. And Mother Teresa says a beautiful thing. She says, whatever you do, do with love and do with respect. And she says, this is a quote from her, there is only one God, and He is a God to all. Therefore, it's important that everybody be seen as equal in God's eyes and be encouraged on their spiritual path, whatever that spiritual path is. But we want to show them what the Christian spiritual path is and do it with kindness, caring, and love, unconditional love. If we do that, we attract people to our faith as opposed to pushing them away. As I end off, I just want to share with you, as many of you may say, well, why do this? I mean, it's kind of a scary place to go, but what happens, yes, in the spiritual side, I can kind of understand that, in the ministry side, but what happens to the business? And I want to just share with you briefly what happened. There's a chart in front of you. When our journey started, when I was the Darth Vader at POLYDEK, we had 22 to 25% employee turnover per annum. People would vote with their feet and say, this guy, I do not want to work in this toxic environment where all that matters is money. And so people would leave in droves. 25% of the people every year would be gone. We have to retrain them and take care of them and rehire new people and all that stuff. If you look at where we are today, our goal is around 3-4%, and we're right there. So we've seen a radical transformation in terms of our employee turnover. There's another chart in front of you that shows what happens when you truly show and can touch the hearts and mind of people with a vision and a purpose that is greater than making money. When you can transcend beyond money, where you can see that an employee's everyday efforts are transformed into money, which is then used to help and care for people in a way that honors God, you touch their hearts. And not only their hearts, but their hands and feet too. And what happens is their engagement in the business changes. The reason for waking up in the morning changes. And they start to bring what we call discretionary effort to the workplace. And when they start doing that, you see the productivity per person start to dramatically change. And this chart that you see in front of you, you'll see how much that changed over the course of the years. It dramatically changed. Our revenue continues to grow. We have employees that are engaged, passionate about seeing the business grow, And that's all good for the business. So yes, we want to do this because God calls us to ministry in our companies. We want to do it to create eternal value. But guess what? God economics blesses our companies in practical ways, because when you care for people, guess what? They care back for you. And it becomes a winning cycle of caring, which is God really, a book he wrote, 2,000 years, is still applicable today. It's probably the best business manual out there. And it's very simple. If you apply these principles with true humility and with kindness, caring, and compassion and love. Just as I end off, I just want to share with you, when you go on this journey, it's important to have measures to measure performance. So KPIs, how are you doing both on the business side? We know exactly as business guys how to do that. We want to know how sales is going, how profitability is going, customer service, blah, blah, blah. But what at Polydeck we have is what we call a balanced scorecard. We have another side which measures the creation of eternal value. And we have metrics all the way down of how we can create, how we care for people, how many souls we touch, how much caring we do for employees, prayer groups, how many people attend prayer groups. All these kinds of soft issues, we measure those too, to ensure that we're creating a place that creates eternal value. And so I thank you for your attention. I thank you for listening. There's that little book, if any of you are interested to hear more about my story, called The Business Card. And at the end of that journey, I found that many, many business owners in our community would come to me and say, how did you transform your business in such a radical way? And so people would start asking me to help coach them on these principles, these simple principles. And it got to the point where there were so many people asking for help that I figured, I need to find a methodical and structured way to help them. And I'm going to hand you over to Chris Patton, who is the CEO, global CEO of His Way at Work.
Thank you, Peter. Now, for some of you that have just heard what Peter said, you are inspired. You're excited because God has reached in, He's pricked your heart, and He's causing you to realize, you're beginning to see that He actually owns your business, not you, and that you're just a steward. You've been put there as steward for a season. But at the end of that season, you also realize God's going to hold you accountable for the results. So if this is you, if you're just now getting excited and you're starting to think a different perspective about your business, I congratulate you, because that's a huge step. Well done. But as Peter mentioned earlier, there are some fears, and they will start hitting you. You'll start asking yourself, will I get sued? Do I have to worry about what my customers are thinking? Am I going to even lose customers? And what about my employees or my board or my partners? And can I afford this? Will I lose profit? First thing I want to tell you is these fears are normal. You are not crazy for having them, but I also have good news for each one of them, and we'll touch on that later. For the rest of you, you're probably thinking, I've been thinking this way for years. You've had this perspective. You understand that God owns your business. And while Peter's exciting and inspiring as a story that he's told, you've been there before. You've been doing this possibly for many years. It's even possible you've been doing really good things in your business for many years. The problem is, more than likely, you've never really had a strategic plan on how you're going to do it. It's more ad hoc. And something that comes along with that is usually you feel like it's all on you. You're probably a little worn out over it, feeling like you're having to drive it all. And maybe there's not as much ownership of this whole mindset as you'd like among your leadership or even your employees. And I bet there's even some frustration at what seems like lack of progress. See, the reason I can so easily identify with both of these groups is I've been there. I've been in both of these groups. In fact, prior to coming to His Way at Work, I was president of our family's group of automobile dealerships just south of Atlanta, Georgia. And for the last 15 years prior to coming on to His Way at Work, I operated those businesses from this very same perspective. So I have felt every single emotion that we've just discussed, and I felt exactly what you're feeling now. But then God led me to His Way at Work 2 years ago. Now, this is a very special organization, as Peter mentioned, and it's been in existence over 12 years. And during that time, we've worked with over 140 different companies. We've worked in 8 different countries across North, Central, and South America. And we've been teaching them a unique and effective solution to acknowledging God's ownership of your business and operating in a way that honors Him. As a result of the work that we've done, there have been more than 50,000 employees impacted by this work. And that's pretty exciting right there. The other thing I want to make sure you know is in these companies, as you would expect, when God's principles are put in effect, the business metrics have actually improved. Now, we've seen productivity and engagement increases in employees. They're happier because what they're doing now is bigger. They're a part of something that's bigger than themselves. And that's a key thing to know about what makes them tick. So the mission at His Way at Work is that we want to inspire and empower Christian business leaders to transform their workplaces with God's love, helping them to acknowledge that God owns their business. And it's their job to love on and care for their employees in a way that points them to Him. Now, how do we do that? First of all, His Way at Work comes alongside of these Christian business owners and leaders, and we help them to develop and execute an operating system for caring in and through their companies. How do we do that? Well, first of all, we start with the vision that God has placed in the heart of the CEO. And as Peter mentioned, we help them flesh that out into a purpose statement and a set of core values. And then we work with that CEO and his or her leadership team to get alignment so that they're all on the same page. Whether they believe the same things or not, we can get them aligned around the idea that we're going to love on and care for the employees. And that's got to be good for the overall picture, even if their motivation is not to honor God. And then we go into the caring strategy. We help this leadership team, including the CEO, to develop an overall caring strategy using that caring matrix that Peter referenced earlier with the grid. And we help make sure that we're touching every stakeholder, the employees, their families, the communities, and we're meeting the physical, emotional, and spiritual needs of those stakeholders. And we want to do it in such a way that's sustainable. So we make sure that as we engage that caring team, now Peter mentioned the caring team, I want to pause on this for a second. This is a critical piece because it's engaging the entry-level employees in the operation of the giving and caring and loving for their fellow employees. It's not a top-down approach telling them what we're going to do. It's giving them the empowerment and the budget and the encouragement to go and do it themselves. And then the accountability is built into the reports that we build around the metrics for the caring activities. So we measure the effectiveness and the impact of each one of those. And that reporting comes back to the leadership team, closing that system. So when we're finished, a company has a sustainable system that's operated by the entry-level employees but reported back to leadership. And the cool thing about this system is it can grow and improve as the company does the same thing. This operating system was originally developed at Polydeck. But since then, over the past 12 years, it's been vetted and approved upon by the more than 140 companies that we've worked with at His Way at Work. And each and every new company we bring on helps us to vet and improve on this system. It improves on the overall system as well as each and every support tool that we have. Now, there are several ways that you can work with His Way at Work. The most popular method is our coaches. Our coaches go on site. They're working in the business to help develop and execute this operating system for caring. But we also have an offering for those companies that are smaller, 25 or 30 employees and less. We've got a do-it-yourself package that helps you walk through the implementation of this very same system in that smaller company. We've also got membership that brings all of these companies together in a community of like-minded businesses that are sharing their challenges, their best practices, holding each other accountable. And then we've also got assorted books and resources. As Peter mentioned, the business card book. You can go to our website and find that book. We've got a transformation guide that's kind of our textbook, as well as the do-it-yourself package and the other supporting materials. So I'd encourage you, if any of this interests you, If you want to make sure that coming out of this current crisis, that your employees begin to feel loved for and cared on, and that your employees begin to feel like they matter more than just a number, or if you want a system that helps you to put into practice, into execution, those thoughts you've had and those desires you've had for something more impactful, and you want to be able to measure how impactful and how effective, then we'd love for you to give us a call. There's some contact information there. You've got my email address and phone number as well as the website. So we'd encourage you to contact us, reach out, and find out what it takes to help you to build a kingdom business. Thank you very much.